Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark. I am a serial entrepreneur, CEO of Leadershipity, speak all over the globe, and wrote a book called Leading Winning Teams. I am a Bloom growth coach, and I am currently serving as the president of EO West Michigan. But most people probably know me because I spent over 12 years of professional baseball coaching in 3 World Series. And today on the Winners Find a Way show, I welcome my friend, Shane Barker. What's up, Shane?
Man, Trent, I got to be honest, man. You guys' intro music, I almost started doing some push-ups or something. That's motivational, man. I was like pumping my hand. You couldn't see it, but I was, whoo.
Yeah.
I'm here. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, you got a little fitness background we're going to talk a little bit about. So, we're going to talk about that, getting at it a little bit. So you are the CEO of TraceFuse AI and the founder of that, TraceFuse.ai. You're a Sacramento kid growing up, now in Reno, Nevada, coming live from Reno, by the way, Reno 911 over there. We got a little emergency on our hands. And I love that. So Shane, Sac State guy, studied a lot of marketing and kind of really cut your teeth on marketing and became, you're an influencer in this digital marketing space as a B2B marketing influencer, but you've represented and worked with tons of influencers. And that's a pretty cool little dynamic there that you've done for a long time, building all sorts of different things when, these massive Facebook groups and things like that, when, man, you guys were out in front of it all, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh man, we were, it was funny with the things that we were doing. We didn't realize it was even influencer marketing. I mean, we'll probably talk about that, but it was just a girl that had reached out to me and had a big following on Instagram and was selling tons of fitness ebooks. And that was how it all kind of manifested into this thing that ended up being influencer marketing. And obviously it is what it is today, where it's huge amounts, copious amounts of money of brands hiring influencers. And obviously they've done that with athletes. You might know a few things about athletes. Right. So that's a beautiful thing. Now it went from all these people up here, and now you could be an influencer and be on Instagram, LinkedIn, and really anywhere.
Yeah, but you're also a little bit out in front of like the Web3. Like the Web3 now is looked at as we're our own marketing tool, right? We don't need to be hawking other brands and this and that. I mean, you've got a huge business in e-commerce. I mean, you've done this a long time. You've got 33,000 followers on LinkedIn alone. So this B2B space is huge for you. And then, of course, some of the things you're doing on the review removal of some of these just toxic things that are happening online with TraceFuse is amazing. And then we culminate this all with the fact of like, now you get a call from UCLA saying, hey, can you do a course called Influencer Marketing in LA? I love this at UCLA. I think that is so cool that you kind of wrote the textbook.
Yeah, it was honestly, and we joked around about this earlier. I honestly thought it was like a friend messing with me or something. Somebody had hacked my email and said, hey, you want to teach at UCLA? Because like I said, I didn't have my master's or anything. But what was interesting is when I ended up flying down to UCLA and meeting with them and talking with them, they were really looking for a practitioner. They were looking for somebody that was in the space, because it was very new. Influencer marketing was very new. They wanted somebody that had the experience with doing it. I've been speaking internationally for a long time, a lot of it in the influencer space. So they'd seen me because of that. So we talk about, building a personal brand. That's how UCLA found me, right? If I didn't have a big personal brand, they wouldn't have reached out to me. So that was some of the value of, once again, early on influencer marketing, being influential, putting content out there, and then people going and finding you. And UCLA was one of those people.
Yeah, I love that. And the other thing for those who are out there, like shanebarker.com, go to that right now, learn a little bit about Shane's background. One of the things I love about you, in addition to this whole, influencer marketing deal, I love the fact that, you cut your teeth coming out of college, opening Chevy's Tex-Mex restaurants. You started there and then said, hey, listen, like, we're going to grow in this brand. I can do this for you, from a lowly, busser to all of a sudden you're going out and building new stores, which culminates in you buying and starting up a bar at Chico State.
I mean, who knew? Yeah, who knew this little busser when he started in South Sac that would be one day they would be saying, hey, you want to open restaurants for us? So yeah, I actually traveled the country opening up restaurants. I was young. And I mean, what I mean by that is I was, paying for hotels and stuff. I was like, oh, this is the life, man. I'm single. I'm on the road. opening restaurants. Man, people think I'm a big deal. Really what I was doing is helping put together like their point of sale system. They had a thing called Squirrel was their point of sale system. Yeah. And shout out to Erica in Vacaville that called me Squirrel Boy, and people held on to that and continue to call me Squirrel Boy, that I'm still going to counseling and stuff like that. I'm actually working through that right now. But yeah, man, we started off at Chevy's and then ended up in Chico. We opened Chevy's in Chico. And then at that point, that was only about an hour and a half away from Sacramento. I was enjoying the ride that I was taking with Chevy's, but then there was a gentleman there that was he wanted to open a bar. He had a pizza place called Pizza Face. And he was looking to open a bar and had tried to do it over and over and over, couldn't do it, and was running into all kinds of red tape. And since I had opened restaurants and bars and knew the process, we jumped in and we partnered up on the bar.
Nice. And so I mean, when you think about Chevy's, I think margaritas, right? Like right there, like that's what's up. So when you talk about that, you knew the compliance for liquor license and the challenges going in there and all that.
Yeah, that was exactly it. I was really cutting my teeth to maybe open a bar, and I didn't really know that. It was just more understanding the process, licenses, things that you're going to need to be able to do. Chico is a very unique city in the sense that they had a limited amount of liquor license, which that happens in some states. And so what the gentleman's name was Peter, what he was doing is adding a liquor license onto his existing pizza place. That was the only way he was able to open a bar, because in Chico, they weren't allowing any more bars. So yeah, I knew that process. And I said, hey, I can get you to the finish line, right? You keep saying you're going to launch and everybody gets excited and then you don't open. Like, let me show you the checklist. We'll go through that. We're going to open. And we opened literally the day before graduation. So it was like a Friday that we opened up, had the city come in. They signed off on it. And then guess what? We were off to the races. And it was an awesome weekend. And then Monday came around and all the students left, and that's a whole nother conversation. That's another thing we got to figure out. Now I'm selling $1 pints to locals and trying to figure out how I'm going to turn that 20-cent profit into, to pay rent and pay for myself. So, whole different conversation.
It's interesting when you think about these colleges. I went to school at Toledo, which is a very big commuter school, and it's a relatively larger city. I mean, it's not a big city, but it's a larger municipality. And then we would go play our rivals, Bowling Green. Bowling Green was like, back in the day, I don't know what it was. It was probably like 10,000 of a city. And then the 30,000 students would show up. And, for 9 months, you're a 40,000 city. And then the summertime, I mean, you could throw a baseball and not hit anything forever. Like, it's 90 days. And like, I always looked at that because the commerce just changes, very similar to up by us, where Traverse City, Michigan, you have this thing that swells to sometimes 250,000 to 500,000 people, and then retracts back to 14,000 in the winter. And you're like, whoa, man, like, how do you do business? Like, it's crazy.
Well, and for me, I hadn't seen that, right? Because I had gone there, we'd opened the restaurant at Chevy's, and we hadn't even gone through a full season. And so when we opened the bar, I thought, man, this is awesome. And when we crushed it that weekend, I thought, oh, man, this is great. Well, I didn't think about the seasonality, right? I didn't think about students leaving. But literally, you talk about throwing a baseball and not hitting anything. It was a Monday, and all of a sudden, it's a ghost town. I thought there was maybe like a threat on the city that I didn't know about, or somebody pulled a fire alarm that I didn't hear. Something was going on. And I was like, man, I'm missing the boat here. And then all of a sudden, I was like, wow, this is, it's great to count money over the weekend. But then on Monday, I'm like, okay, now I got to reach out to the locals, which is a lot. They drink, but not as much as the students do, right? And so, yeah, it was that was an interesting summer of being able to pivot and figuring out what you need and making sure you have enough working capital to be able to make it through those slow times. I wasn't necessarily prepared for that, right? Because I had Chevy's backing me. There was no downtime. They did plenty of money. There was no, we didn't have any issues with that. Well, when you're the owner, it's a little different. It's almost like the money comes out of your pocket. It's kind of a different dynamic there.
Sure is. Yeah. I mean, for all those entrepreneurs out there, they certainly get that, right? All of a sudden, 90 days of, everyone staring at each other, hoping someone comes in and man, does that test your marketing, right? And from what I've seen, those communities, right? The locals don't mix with the students. And I can remember, and I actually had a cousin in this movie called Cutters, right? Where they talked about IU in Indiana, and like the local were the stone cutters. And then they did the annual little Indy and little 500 and the bike race. And such a good film. And it talked about that, like, man, the students and the locals don't necessarily jive.
Yeah, and that was the issue. That's what I was looking at, is because we were supposed to be like a martini bar, but that first week when we opened, obviously just tons of beer specials, and so we were trying to pull in. That was a little bit after that. We said, hey, we probably should really try to go after the martini thing, because that's more of a, I would say, more established. Like, you're a college student, you're looking for a Pabst and a shot of Jack Daniels for $4, right, or something,
Yeah.
right? We were trying to do some martini things to pull in some of the locals, but once again, the locals were very much allergic to the students for the most part, of saying, hey, we don't really want to hang out with the students. And I'm like, hey, they're not here. And like, well, how do we know? Because we were known as a college bar just because when we had opened and how big it was. And anyways, yeah, it's a different deal. You're selling to two very different markets there, right? They don't necessarily care about your $2 Paps. They care about, hey, I want to come in and feel comfortable and not be in a situation where people are all drunk. And so, yeah, it's definitely two different audiences. And we were trying to have one bar and two audiences. And then how do you fight between those two different audiences, right? And how do you bring them in?
Yeah, you've had a ton of success, and it didn't start that way. It felt like, right? I mean, you go the Van Wilder 10-year program through college. You're kind of doing your thing, hitting some credits. I'm loving the education, but I'm also loving the non-adulting. 8 to 4 full-time job, all this stuff, and you're in SoCal. Well, you're kind of in Northern Cal,
Yeah.
and I mean, you're digging it. Like, things are going, but I mean, are you trying to find your path at that point? Are you kind of testing the waters? What's going on in those years?
Yeah, I always had my own business. And so I had a company by the name of Hot Pad. It was like a reusable heat pack that we were selling. This was when I was going through college. But yeah, I did the 10-year route only because, not because I was like failing courses and doing all that. The whole being an adult thing just looked terrible, man. Like, I honestly, like, jumping into the real world and working for somebody. I was on the road. I was traveling. I was in Thailand. I was in, Australia. I was really wherever I wanted to be. I'd make good money and be able to go travel around. I've always wanted to, I've always worked for myself. I've probably been one, except Chevy's and one other business that I've done, but I've done, consulting and stuff like that. So what was happening, and I didn't realize it, was that by me starting my own businesses, that I was learning, obviously no different than you, right? You learn, you baseball, you get in there, you learn, and then guess what? Now you're up there in baseball, and guess what? Everybody wants to learn how you did that. Well, what I was doing is I was just a broke college student. I mean, I had a little bit of money, but nothing crazy. And I'm going around and traveling, but I've got to keep my business going. So I didn't have the money to go hire somebody to go create a website. So I would have to do it myself. So really what I was doing is just being frugal and not having the money. I was like, hey, I got to figure this out on my own. And what that does is that makes it so that, hey, the only way for me to learn this is to get in and do it. It's not like I could hire people and learn from them. Now, obviously, I have an amazing team. I have somebody for every aspect of my business. And I can't delegate enough, but as growing up, man, I didn't delegate anything. I was delegating it to myself. I had to go and hustle and grind and be able to figure out how to do things and what was right and was wrong. And I was probably one of the first companies to ever use freelancers way back in the day. This was when I think it was called freelancer.com, or no, Get a Freelancer. I was one of their first people. I had a friend that was like, hey, I'm on this site and you can hire people for, pretty inexpensive. And now it's been bought by a few different companies. But I was always, wanted to learn myself, but I also wanted to figure out, hey, how do I need to have enough knowledge to be able to be dangerous. If I need to go do it myself, if somebody leaves, something happens. But, now I've got a few companies. And so now I've got, some amazing people that work for me that I, obviously I rely on a heavy basis because they're doing some amazing things.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about a little bit of the journey. We call the show Winners Find a Way. I love the quote, winners, when shown data that they're losing, find a way to win. I mean, very similar to what you're talking about. Like, hey, man, no one else is going to set up a website, so I'm going to upskill and learn how to set up a website. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And how I can interchange or integrate my e-commerce system, everything else. I've got to figure that out. Thank you, Shopify. Like as we all kind of figure it out. And so walk us through one of those times in businesses you're coming up and you're just like trying to, hey man, we keep pressing and this is not going the right direction. And what do you do to adapt in that situation to turn it around to win?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you a great example is TraceFuse, TraceFuse.ai. When I started TraceFuse, this was about 5.5 years ago, and this was in the Amazon space, and I was newer to the Amazon space, and I had some customers that were working with me through shanebarker.com, my main website, and I was consulting and stuff, and I asked them, hey, what is your biggest pain point? And they said, oh, Amazon and reviews, and I said, oh, here, hold my beer. Like, we'll figure this out in the next few weeks. We're going to be fine. Well, it took a little longer than 2 weeks. It took about 2 years. And what I mean by 2 years, I don't mean like 1 hour on the weekend, kind of see how it goes. I'm talking 5 days a week, if not 7 days a week, grinding it out, trying to figure out if we can file these cases to get Amazon to respond. Because every seller that I talked to said, hey, they don't remove these reviews, even if they're against their own terms of service. So what we look at is, so if you write a review on Amazon, and if you say, hey, I bought these Nike Air Max, really, really love them, but I'll tell you, man, I really miss my Adidas X12s. Okay, awesome. That doesn't seem like a bad review, but at the end of the day, what you're really saying is that you like the Nikes, but you should go buy Adidas, right? And so that you can't do that, right? Or I can't say, hey, man, I bought this, whatever. I bought these earphones for $100 on Black Friday, and now they're $150. They're way too expensive. Well, that's a legit review, but the problem is Amazon doesn't want you talking about the sale price that you got it for, because not everybody's going to get it for that price, and that affects sales. So, or if you cuss in a review, hate speech, anything FBA related. So if you have your pallet of stuff that you ship to Amazon, and Amazon ships out the product, and they ship it out to somebody 2 weeks late, and somebody says, it was 2 weeks late, I hate this product. Well, that's a problem with the shipping, not with the product. And so Amazon's supposed to remove those reviews. I think a good percentage of the time they do. So we jumped in and said, hey, the ones that slipped through the cracks that Amazon missed, we're going to file cases on it, get Amazon to remove them. Well, the good part for us, I mean, the good and bad part is, nobody could do this. Nobody had done this. We were the first company to do it. But the bad part is that we were the first company to do it, right? I mean, we're paving the way. So I didn't have anybody to follow to say, oh, this marketing's working. I can look at this. Historically, this is happening. I literally went to a conference in Florida. It was called the Powwow. Went down there. I said, got all dressed up and put my hat on, and I told everybody, hey, we can help you guys remove, critical reviews that hurt your product listings. And they said, no, you can't. And I said, no, like we really can. And they said, no, you can't. That's review manipulation. That's against Amazon's guidelines. And I said, no, it's really not. It's not. And so anyways, we talk about, it took 2 years to figure this out. So that's like, you talk about perseverance. You talk about, being able to get through the losses and going, man, how much longer do I wait? Is it another 6 months? Is it another year till we start making some money? Because I'm spending all kinds of money over here to see if this thing's going to work. And, you get to a point where you're like, okay, is the juice worth the squeeze at this point, right? I'm trying to figure this thing out. Do I jump ship and go do something different? Which I was obviously taking money from shanebarker.com from consulting and stuff, and we were fine. But, still there's a point where it's like, hey, do I want to keep doing this or not doing this? And then what happened there was like, great, when we finally cracked the code, this is awesome. Awesome. We're going to start making some money. I'm going to go in. I'm going to start crushing it. I'm talking to people, and they said, nope, not possible. And I'm like, no, I swear it is possible. They said, no, it's not. And I said, no, it is. And so what happened there was, this is what's funny. This is another thing that we learned through this whole process, is I was going in and we were going to do retainer based. And so what that means is like an attorney, right? They come in, grab a retainer of 10 grand, and we were going to bill against the retainer. We thought, oh, this is a great model, because what we didn't want to happen was let's say we remove 20 reviews for you. At the end of the month, we say, hey, you owe us, $5,000, and you just ghost us. And then all the work that we put in that's going to be a problem. So we said, well, hey, we don't want to get screwed. Let's get a retainer. So you, Trent, let's say I go and talk to you, and you say, hey, this isn't even possible. And I said, this isn't possible. Let me show you how we can do it. Hey, give me 10 grand. And you're like, no, that's a hot no. Like, I just told you I didn't think it was possible, and now you want a big old chunk of change. Nothing says shady like, hey, I don't think you can do this, but if you give me a lot of money, I can do it. So what happened was we weren't getting any people to sign up, because everybody's like, why would I give you a retainer? I don't even think it's possible. So I thought, okay, I've got an idea. Why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and make it you guys only pay for reviews that actually get removed? So if we go and we file tons of cases and no reviews get removed, you guys don't pay for anything. And they said, you do that? Why would you do that? And I said, because we can, because I can remove reviews. I'm going to show you guys that we can do that. And so guess what? Once we flipped that on its head and weren't asking for crazy retainers, I set up $250 for every review removed. Would you agree to that? Absolutely. Well, guess what? We start filing cases, start removing reviews. We've removed over 16,000 reviews, and we have over 700 brands we work with now. So, but that was hard, man. 2 years of no money. Hey, we can do this. And they're like, no, you can't. There's no way this is possible. And I'm like, no, it is. And then how do you convince that first person to dance with you? Right. And so that was a whole different situation.
I love that. And I ask the question, I ask 4 questions a lot when we talk about a product. I mean, you have a vision saying, one, is there a need for this? Like, yeah, there's a need. Like this becomes a big challenge and there's a big hurdle because not only is it something that somebody put out there that you have no control over, but their own rules and guidelines are like disallowing you to actually take care of their rules and guidelines. So
Yeah.
so there's a need. Okay. Then is it being filled? You don't have no one's filled this because they
No.
and everyone's telling you you can't fill it. So like you actually have to educate them and convince them, which is crazy, by the way. Is there money in it? And you're thinking, I'm sure at this point, like, hey, this is a gold mine. Like, if you could get these removed, this is going to be great. But now all of a sudden, your first model, people are unwilling to pay for it.
Yeah.
And this is one of the challenges I like a lot of the NIL companies got into. They were like,
Yeah.
you know what, we're going to go sell NILs, all this information to college kids. How much money did you have when you were in college? Like,
Yeah.
no one's got any money, man. Like you're selling to an audience with no money. So is there money in it? Yeah. Brands are throwing stuff at, yeah, Shane Barker, we'd love to have you represent our product and da-da-da. We'll give you $100,000. You're like, hey, that's great. That's awesome. That's happening. So we see that there's money being flown around, but the challenge is now you need to get paid from this group who may or may not have any money. So he's like,
Yeah.
hey, there's money in it, but can you get paid? No, not if you're selling to that audience. So there's these challenges. So walk me through the 4 on Trace Fuse as you kind of went down that. So number 1, you saw the need.
Yeah, we did. We saw the need. Obviously, we knew once I started talking to these folks and they said, hey, it's virtually impossible to get these reviews removed. That was a challenge to me as an entrepreneur. And I was like, okay, there's an opportunity here. Every seller that I talked to said, hey, it's almost impossible. And I said, well, awesome. The beautiful part about it being impossible is that there's a huge challenge. Awesome. So that means you're not going to have as many competitors because nobody had done it before, right? So that's awesome. But the other downside, as I talked about earlier, is that we're paving the way. So we're the ones that's having to educate people on how we're doing things, why we're doing things. There's also compliance. There's all kinds of things that can potentially get an Amazon account banned. And they want to make sure they know that you're doing the right thing. In the beginning, you have to get somebody that jumps off the bridge with you to try it, right? I mean, the problem is, nobody wants to be the first person, because if I be the first person jump off the ridge and they hit a rock and they go, well, damn, I'm glad that wasn't me. That's what they don't want, right? Nobody wants to do that. I don't blame them. And I'm going, hey, I pinky swear promise that we're legit and we're going to do good things and we're going to take care of you. And they said, yeah, it's too much with Amazon. I spent tons of money. I built this brand up. I'm making X amount a month. This is how I feed my family. And so I had to, you got to get those first people to the table, offer them some kind of a great deal. And then, what we started doing is once reviews started being removed, we started doing more podcasts, more interviews, my background's in digital marketing. So that's, between LinkedIn, between, content being created, between, international speaking events, all the different things that I did to be able to show people this is a legit company. But that journey was not easy, man. It was like, but I enjoy being punched in my face. Like, I probably shouldn't say that out loud, but I like a challenge. But there was a certain point where I was like, man, I gotta, maybe getting punched in the face isn't as good as it used to feel. I'm starting to feel a little down a little bit. I got to figure this out. And then it ended up taking off.
Well, I love the idea that, like, is it being filled? And that answer was clearly no. And you bring up a great point, which is, hey, this looked like major opportunity, but the fact that it wasn't being filled and no one trusted it to be filled was all of a sudden become the major hurdle. That became the high jump right there. Is like, hey, how do I get over that high bar? Because we're not high jumping 4 feet. This all of a sudden someone set this thing at 710 and like, holy crap, man! Like, this is a high deal that takes you 2 years to get over. So I love that, and I also love the fact, like, the benefit. I've seen this on both sides. The benefit of, hey, I'm the only guy who's actually learned how to fill it. So guess what? I'm first in line. I'm first mover, which is important.
Yeah.
There's that other filled, like, I remember when Costco started, and I was like, oh, a private, buying club like Sam's Club, and you're going up against Sam Walton. Like, hey, that needs being filled, bro. Like, you don't need to go there. You're never gonna win there. Yeah. And yet he was like, hey, listen, I think I can win. And I remember the early days, something I read about it was like the average ticket for Sam's Club was like $170, and the average Costco ticket was $270, like almost exactly $100 more. And his play was like, oh, electronics, technology. I'm going to be buyer of these really consumable products that everybody wants right now, and I'm going to get kind of ahead of that thing. Where Sam's like, hey, everybody wants a big cleaning, supply, and they want a vacuum, and they want, like, okay, like, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But you don't buy a vacuum every month. So it's like, you're buying that once. And they're like going, man, I need some AirPods. I need this. I need, a headset. I need a Bluetooth. I need a laptop case, and they were hot. And so it was funny that if I'd have looked at that and probably, from Shane, we're consultants, right? So like, I think about my consulting hat, I would have probably been like, hey man, are you crazy? You're going up against Sam Walton. This isn't a good idea. Like, I don't like your chances. Like, they've already established this. So I love the guts, to go in and say, hey, we're going to fill it. Now, there's money in it because everyone's frustrated with this whole thing. And it's not the fact that there's money in it. It's the fact that people are losing massive amounts of money because these reviews are, pulling people away from their site and the click to buy, and it's killing them. So the money's not actually that there's so much there. It's the cost of the money. Is that fair?
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, that was the thing, is that there's certain categories at Amazon that really understand our program, and that's going to be like supplements, pet, and beauty. Those are some of our biggest categories. And the reason why that is what you look at is the lifetime value of those customers, right? So if somebody has, like my wife as an example, great, we have certain dog treats we buy our dogs. My dog's 17. I'm pretty sure that my dog has probably had about $10,000 in just these treats, right? Yeah. So that's the lifetime value for that, right? So what we're looking at is only $30, but the lifetime value is very, very high. So what happened is we're looking at this and going, okay, this is what it is. And there's certain categories, as I said, that there's a lot of aggression. There's even people that are buying products, competitors, and bad mouthing the other competitors. They'll buy a product, they'll have a buyer's account, buy the products, give you a 1-star review to crush you during your Prime Day, during Christmas, during all these things. And they do that because what happens is they knew that it was very difficult to get those reviews removed by Amazon, and they wouldn't do that. So people were doing what we call black hat tactics to go and attack your brand. You could have a legit brand. You could be just, have a few ASINs or a few products that you sell. Good things are happening. And then all of a sudden you get attacked and you go, hey, Amazon, you need to fix this. And Amazon doesn't fix it. Well, guess what? We realized that, hey, if we can go in there and get some of these reviews removed, we really wanted to even the playing field. That was really my goal. I mean, I enjoy money. I enjoy making money. But at the end of the day, I was like, if I can come in and be able to help your business, because that's how you feed your family. Like, I'll tell you, my team, I get more excited about somebody giving me a video testimonial than I do about our sales, which is crazy because you'd think sales would be, now Shane 1.0, when I was 20 years old, I'd have been pumped about that. But here I'm like, I really want to help people, right? And we were able to do that. The problem is nobody wants to be that first person, and getting past that, once the reviews started being removed and we started doing these things, the beautiful thing is that everybody in these, because Amazon has tons of communities, like literally there's like groups of Mormons that sell them. We have groups of Jewish guys. Like there's these communities. And once we started working with these communities and they saw some results and they started telling everybody, and that's when things really, really started to take off. But yeah, that first, I was pumped, man. We were launched and we went out, oh my God, I'm going to just crush this thing. And all of a sudden it was crickets. Brutal.
Did you know that? Like when you talk about that, like that's super interesting, because did you know that would happen? I mean, you are influencer marketing, and when people would start going, I was influenced by this guy who ended up saving me a ton of money. All we're watching is our revenues go up, our bad debt go down. Like, so everything's going the right way. Have you heard about this guy? Because they're very like incestuous pockets. And we see this in all sorts of industries, right? Like, yeah, I was in the shipping business, and like, man, when you see people that work on the riverboats, like it's like my grandpappy, my pappy, my dad, yeah, my brothers, my uncles, like there's 17 family members who work on river vessels. And you're like, this is a very incestuous industry, we call it, right? It's not a bad word, yeah, right? It's just like, this is what we're. And so you see this now too in these pockets, because we're birds of a feather flock together, because they're all going the same direction, right? So now you see this, did you know from an influencer marketing standpoint, from your learnings, like, hey, they hear Shane Barker and Trace Fuse has figured this out. It's like, oh, you got to go talk to these guys. This is great. Did you know that?
Yeah, we did. I mean, I knew that going into these pockets, because I'd never really been in an industry that they'd had pockets like that. I grew up in influencer and SEO and all that kind of stuff. But there was these interesting pockets. I just had never seen it like that, where it's like that, like literally there's a place, there's an area code in Brooklyn where a heavy Jewish community, it was like 7% of the Amazon sellers in one zip code. Right. Like, I mean, it's that crazy. Yeah. Like, it's like everybody and their mother in that whole few blocks sells on Amazon. Like, it's that crazy. So what I knew was there was two things that I knew I needed to do. I needed to, one, nobody cares that I say that we're awesome and we can do all these things. Nobody cares as the owner. I don't know you. You're not even in the Amazon space. You know, I put my face on the company because I wanted people to be able to look me up and say, oh, he taught at UCLA. He's had multiple businesses. He's been on podcasts. He's spoken. I want people to know that, like, I wanted to add some validity to the business by knowing that hopefully that, hey, I've spent hundreds of thousands, if not more than that, on my personal brand. I'm not going to throw that away by coming and scamming you. Like, that's just not the way I do things. I have an ethical business and I have certain standards that I hold myself to. And especially in the reputation management space, because a lot of the companies that you go and look at, you don't know who the owners are, feels very kind of cloak and dagger. You're like kind of paying some money. You don't really know what they're doing, but things get done. I wanted to do the opposite of that. For me, transparency was important and making sure that we're compliant with Amazon. And so that was something that was very interesting. The other thing that I knew was going to be really, really pivotal is testimonials. Right. And I'm not talking about, John Smith with a picture of John Smith and saying 8-figure Amazon seller. I love Trace Fuse. Like, that doesn't move the needle, because I'm a marketer. I look at that and I go, BS. That's not real. That's fake. So what we're looking at, I had my customers do video testimonials. And so what we would do is we would tell them, hey, listen, if they had some great results, now we have it baked into our outbound system. But what it was is I would say, hey, looks like we removed 8 reviews. You have that one product that went from a 4.2 to 4.3. Did you have an uptick in sales? So, oh yeah, we had a 30% uptick. Hey, I'll give you guys 2 reviews removed for free, which is a $500 value, if you're willing to do a video testimonial for me. Right. And would give them some questions and stuff. And I would say, listen, you just go for it. Right. I don't need you to talk about these specific things. Don't just do a video and say, hey, I really like Shane. He's a nice guy. And Trace Fuse is awesome. We really like it. I give it 2 thumbs up. Like, come on, man. We got to talk about sales, talk about what we would do, talk about your pain points, talk about the fact you were scared to death to work with us, talk about the fact that you love that you don't have to pay so I didn't want to tell them, hey, this is what you need to put. I wanted it to be very organic. I wanted to give them a little bit of an outline, just so they don't, once again, just say that Shane's awesome or something. I mean, we all know that. Jesus, why would we even say that in a testimonial? Captain Obvious here. What we would, and I know we have probably about 15 video testimonials, all walks of life, different categories, different this. And that, I believe, is a huge part of this. Is in the beginning that was instrumental, because of course I tell people, I mean, we're the best thing since sliced bread, but I'm the owner. Of course, I'm going to be a little biased. Like last time I checked. So guess what? I tell people in my presentation, hey, talk to these people, right? Even reach out to them. You can reach out to them and talk about the success that they've had with Trace Fuse. Then people go, okay, Shane seems to be like a nice guy, but hey, these other guys are saying that it's a legit program. Awesome. So that was a really pivotal thing for us. I knew that I had to get some validation from people other than myself, or from actual customers that we were working with. And then what happened is we get a supplement client that says, oh my God, best thing ever. Well, guess what? Now I take that video and I go after other supplement clients and saying, hey, we work with James. His name's James, actually works at Organic Muscle, the owner. Hey, he's had some great results with us. I see you guys are in the supplement space. Hey, we should talk. And James is saying, oh, he increased revenue. He did all these things. Like, I can send you an email and tell you what we've done, or you guys can go listen to James. And so we started grabbing different categories, grabbing these testimonials, and then starting doing cold outreach and different things that we knew that, guess what, you're going to resonate with it, right? Because you're obviously in that category. You're knowing James. You might know him as a competitor, you might not. But at the end of the day, you guys are both in the supplement space. And if James says I did good things, I should be able to do good things for you as well. So, it did help to have a digital marketing background, obviously, in that, because if not, I would have been probably in a really bad situation where I don't know if we would have made it, because, a lot of money out the door and trying to figure out how to get people in the door. now, like I said, now we're at 700 brands and good things are happening, but it was, like anything, it's not easy. If it's easy, everybody's doing it. So that's what and I'm sure you've probably said this a million times in the consulting you've done. The hard part, once again, is that we were the first ones. This is great. We paved the way, but man, it's kind of brutal. But when you get to the top, it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice up here. Weather's nice, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for the lesson for me, for people, when we talk about winners find a way, like finding that way, no one said that way was easy, right? Like that's the challenge of it all. And I like you to use the word perseverance, right? Like how many people go, I get this now with young folks, like I have teen kids, right? And it's like, oh, well, I don't know how I'd get a hold of him. I tried to text and they didn't answer. Like, bro, I don't know. You got his Snap, you got his phone number, you got this, like maybe call. And it's like, I tried one thing, it didn't work, I'm done. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this, these things are the most resourceful things you've ever seen in your life. And you're thinking like, when we were kids, we had none of this stuff, right? Like you gotta go build it, right? And like,
yeah,
it's so crazy that I just see kids just shut down on a first chance. Like, oh, it didn't work. Oh yeah, it's probably not a good idea. That's not necessarily true, man. Like you gotta find out.
I am with you 100%. We raised our son very different than that. I was like, hey, listen, you got to find a way, and that's really plays into what you do as a consultant and everything. I'm like, listen, their doors closing is not the problem, right? Because they're always going to close, right? You got to figure out which one's open or how do you get that door open, right? And once again, but the hard part, I think, and for me, with Trace Fuse was 2 years. I mean, there was plenty of times that I was going, hey man, I don't know if this is the right way to go. Right. Like I'm looking at this saying, I mean, I like a challenge. I don't mind, as I said, being punched in the face. I enjoy the like, hey, you see, I can't do it. All right, then I'll be right back. I'm going to make this happen. Right. Yeah. But you start to get into 2 years and I'm like, man, I'm not seeing any cash. How much money have I spent? You start to lose a little bit of, I don't want to lose confidence in myself, but I was looking at this thing going, man, it'd be so much easier just to be a barista at Starbucks. You do the same thing, which would be terrible for me because that would just drive me nuts. But yeah, once it finally happened, once again, I was like, I told my wife, hey, we're good. Don't need to leverage anything. We don't need to sell anything. This is awesome. And then went to all these conferences and didn't sell anything. I was like, all right, we got to start selling stuff again. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, tell me a little bit about that. I mean, you've been married over 20 years. You've mentioned your son you've raised now, former ball player, by the way, which I like. And, and I think that's also, by the way, one of those lessons that you learn to persevere because there's tons of failure like in that. Like, and if you think failure is final, failure is just data points in baseball. Like, hey, I hit the ball as hard as I can hit it. The second baseman jumped and caught it. Like I didn't do anything wrong. They did something well to stop me. If I keep doing these things well, it's going to work out. And I got some data points, and I think that is so critical for kids nowadays to really get that. And I think about when we were kids, baseball was America's pastime, right? And we all played Little League. We all did all those things. Most people got involved, right? And now it's like, man, no kids want to play. Like, whoa, failure all the time? Like, what am I, my ego's hurt. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I will tell you so my son, we've had when he was growing up with us, I mean, there was ups and downs. I'm an entrepreneur, right? My wife is more the stability of like how a consistent job. I was like, hey, we're adding cheese to our steaks, or adding cheese to our burgers today. And then next month I'm like, hey, no cheese. No, in fact, you're not even getting a burger, you're getting a bun, So there was, these ups and downs.
I toasted it. It should be good with the lettuce and pickle.
Who wants ramen with egg? I was like, I know. It's like, okay. So yeah, I mean, what we were looking at there is, I mean, he would see those ups and downs. He was right next to me. So he would hear my conversations with people. So he would get a piece of that. But I will tell you, and I know you know this and you were just touching on it, is sports was a huge thing for that because you're not always winning, right? You are going to have times when you get embarrassed, things happen, but you also have times when you smack it out of the park and you feel like nobody could touch you. That's what you strive for, those moments where the highs, but you're also going to get the lows. If you don't get the lows, like lows are going to happen. Like my son, I was like, my wife would be like, oh, I'm worried about this happening. I'm like, I want that to happen to him. I want him to have these things that are going to happen, because guess what? We're not always going to be there to protect them. Life is life. And at the end of the day, life is going to come for you. And sometimes it's going to be great. Sometimes it's not going to be great, but it's all your perspective on how you handle it. Like, you're not always going to win, right? In fact, I will tell you right now, the entrepreneur I am today, mainly because of my failures and not because of my wins. I can tell you that honestly. It's how I got punched in the face. I had this happen. I had that happen, all kinds of things. I was down and out. When I'm making money and things are great, that's kind of easier because I went through that. But guess what? To get there, you got to be willing. That's a journey. You're a professional athlete. Do you think, can you imagine if you as a kid was like, oh man, that guy caught the ball. I didn't make it to first base. Okay, well, guess what? You got another opportunity in 2 innings. Like, what are you waiting for, right? Like, you have an opportunity to get better.
Yeah, could you imagine? And I say, hey, Coach Barker, like, this is too hard. I quit. Like, that was the first inning. No, and you're like, no, Trent, you're going to have 3 more at-bats and 3 more chances. Yeah, but it seems really hard. Like, that Randy Johnson, he's really good and I'm not. So, like, I'm going to call it a day. Like, I can't fathom the even idea of that, right? But yet, when we talk about this, Shane, I love the way you frame it. The lows, right? The lows are going to happen, and it's one of the things that and you'll appreciate this as a consultant. One of my best days that I get super fired up about is when everything's going wrong, when it's all failing, and everyone is now hit their wits end, and they are now like, oh crap. They are all ready to do something about it. When it was going good, no one wants to change. I don't want to do anything better. Like, hey, we just made $1 million. Hey, can I show you how you could have made 10? No, man, we're doing we're doing the whole camp down in Florida, and we're all doing the retreat, and it's going to be incredible. And I'm like, well, you want to retreat in Barbados next year? How do you want to do this? And so they're not ready. They're not ready for it, right? But when it's all crap, it's like, hey, now we're ready to roll up our sleeves. We're going to dig in. And by the way, you are going to be a far superior brand, company, and team 10 months from now. And the beautiful thing of a Shane Barker and a Trent Clark is that we can see it. I can see it ahead of you, and it excites the snot out of me because you're going to be changed forever. And to the better because of this minor setback. So don't hang up on this failure.
No, that's where the growth happens. That's literally where the growth happens, is when you're at that bottom and you're going, man, I gotta drag my way out of this. When you're making tons of money, guess what? It's the same thing. And I tell companies this all the time. When you're making all kinds of money, it's awesome. But guess what? Like, right around the corner, something could be happening. What are you preparing for, right? Because there's ups and downs. And so, when you're winning, it's like, and I have this because I have a lot of friends in the real estate industry. And I get, man, they sell a house, they make 10 grand and they're gone for 2 months. And I'm like, man, but guess what? And then all of a sudden you have 2008 that hits, and you didn't build out a legit business. You were just doing, loan to loan or whatever it is. Yeah. And now you haven't built any relationships there. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, when things are going terrible, that's when we get scrappy. That's when we go in and we really grind it out. Cause guess what? You're in red, brother. Like, you're driving your car, and guess what? It's in red, and you've got about 2 more miles left, and you've got 25 cents to your name. You got to figure out how to make that 25 cents to 50 cents to $1. What do you need to do? Because, and for me, and you kind of touched on it, I like that, I don't like having no money, but there is definitely points where I'm like, okay, now it's time to go to work, right? You got to pull up your sleeves. You got to make things happen. And there's some people that do that, and some people that aren't made for that. And there's people that go and work for a company, which is awesome. That's not saying that's a bad way to go, because you have that stability. That's awesome. I like the hunt. I told you earlier, I've said this way too many times. I do like to get punched in the face. I shouldn't say that. My wife's Italian and she's in the other room. She's like, bring it, brother. I'm going to make this happen.
I want to talk about your wife a little bit, but before we do, because, wife of an entrepreneur is no like easy journey. Right. This is not like a stable, like, hey, I'm going to be home at 5:15. I'm going to grab the paper. I'm going to read it. And we're going to sit down for dinner at 6 and welcome to Leave It to Beaver. Like, that's not happening. Right. Like, this is not that's not the space. We're going through it, and we're living the risk. And unfortunately, so are our families a little bit. Right. Like, with that is a impact. And so I want to talk about that ground level of impact. But you've won a lot, Shane. And I look at like Coach Saban, right? Coach Saban, I coached for him at Michigan State. And then he went on to great fame and, did really well, obviously, at Alabama. And, one of the things that always probably impressed me most about Coach Saban is once he hit the top. Like he was unwilling to let that go. And that point where you become this person in Trace Fuse, right? You become the top and you're the one who can provide it. Now people are coming to knock you off. Like, you know what? Hey, we could get rid of your reviews, like, and now you got competitors, and you live that through the fitness example, right? That you gave earlier, where you're kicking butt, and she's growing like wildfire. And she's like, oh well, there's another marketing company that offered a better deal. I think I'm going to switch. And you're like, like, no, I keep positioning you, and I keep adapting you to be number one, and I'm not stopping. You do this. You risk a lot. And how do you stay at the top when everybody's gunning for it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't mind competition. In fact, I like competition. We do have, I mean, Trace Fuse, when we started this, as I said, we didn't have any. We do have some competition now. Nobody that I could that I'm necessarily worried about. But the way I look at this, I always come from an abundance mindset. So whether I have one competitor or 10 competitors, I'll make money. And because as long as I'm doing an ethical business and I'm treating people right and taking care of people, your business should do good. If you have good morals and good ethics and you treat people the way you would want to treat your mom, assuming you like your mom, right? Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I'll say, and that I've heard a lot from you, is you're a meritocracy in the fact, like, you get results. I mean, one of the things you've always stood on is like, hey, I'm going to produce a result for you and you're going to pay me for it. But like, I am going to get a result. And you've learned, hey, if I don't get the results, it turns out they don't pay me, which is the 2-year hurdle, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's what we did. I mean, I think you're touching on is Zoe. We had I had an agreement with Zoe so Zoe was a fitness influencer. This was before influencer marketing was even a thing. She reached out to me. This is how I got in the influencer space. And she said, hey, I'm selling these fitness ebooks. I'm only making $43,000 a month. And I said, I'm sorry, what did you just say? And she goes, well, yeah, I'm only making $43,000 a month. And I'm like, it's a $20 ebook. Like, what do you like? I divide that. That doesn't. I don't. I'm. What? Wait. What?
That's a lot.
Bro,
of clicks,
what is going on? Yeah. And those are people that are buying, right? I mean, that's like so. I was like, no, this is not real. This isn't the real world. Like this is, and yeah, it's based off my Instagram following. I was like, this is somebody pinched me. But what happened there, and what you're touching on is what I know is I believe in myself. I believe in my team. I know what we can do. So I can either sell you on, hey, give us what's a retainer, do this, do that, which is very heavy front. People feel like there's a big risk there. And like, guess what? If you believe and you know what you can do, what I knew with Zoe is that she was a diamond in the rough. And I knew that I could take her from $43,000 to potentially $100,000 a month. So I negotiated a percentage of that uptick. So I said, hey, you can hire me, give me a little base. And if we only stay at 43,000, we'll do this for 3 months. I'll take my little base and we'll run off. But guess what? If I take you above 43,000, I want a percentage of that. She's like, there's really no risk there for her for the most part, right? So great. Well, guess what? We got her way above 43,000 and life was awesome. But as you said, she got pulled, you get tempted by a fruit of another. Somebody else is like, oh, we can do this better. I'm not saying there's not people out there smarter than me that are better at marketing. There absolutely is. But I know where I stand, and I can tell you right now that if you want to go up against me, you better be ready. You better do some push-ups. You better do some sit-ups. Yeah, you better be doing something because I'm Irish and I'm mad. I got a big old red beard and it's gray. And I used to do judo when I was in 16. So, I'm a savage. Yeah.
One of the things, I love this. And by the way, I use this as a qualifier a lot. For a lot of people come say, hey, Trent, listen, I heard you took this company from $10 million to $100 million coaching these guys out. Like, yeah, it was great. This great group, really great coachability, was at a high level with this group, ready to go. Good job. Yeah, like I want you to do that with me too. I'm great. Like, listen, when I do that, we take your $5 million company to $5 to $50 million. Like, I'm going to want a 10% share of that upside. Now, like, whoa, that's way too expensive. I'm like, so you make 45 and I make 4.5 and you think that's too expensive. And I'm like, you are not my client. Like, you are not the person who understands what value is and what you're getting. Because that ROI, when you're making 5 right now, like, what are you thinking? And like, people, they'll do it all the time. And it's a qualifier for me. It's really become a disqualifier for me.
I have qualifying questions. Back in the day, I would take on anybody that had $1. Now I have questions And if you don't, if I'm asking you these qualifying questions to see if you're going to be a good client for me, what people don't realize, and I'll tell them in the beginning to switch the mindset. Oh, they think they're interviewing me, but I'm really interviewing you. And I've had plenty of people at the end say, hey, I don't think you're going to be a good fit. And you see it in their face, like, what do you mean I'm not a good fit? Well, let me explain why you're not a good fit. And I don't mean that it's nothing against you personally, but there's just certain things that you're not checking boxes that I think you need to check the box to be able to work with somebody like me, not because I'm this big thing, but if you don't know what your budget is, if you're only bringing in X amount, and you've already hired 7 consultants in the last 7 months, like, oh, and every consultant was terrible. Are you sure about that? Because are you sure all 7 were? Now, if you hired one and had maybe, but 7 in 7 months, like, come on, man, my spider sense tingles, and I'll tell you, I gotta follow that one all day long. And I go, yeah, you're just not a good fit. That's where things got interesting. And with Zoe, the way she got sold was she told them, hey, I'm paying whatever 15, 20, 30 grand to this guy a month. And they go, we could do that for $3,000, like all same results and everything. Well, what happened was literally when we switched over, I told Zoe, hey, don't do that, because you got to be really careful. These guys are just selling you. And she was looking at the savings. She was thinking, I'm going to save all this money, make the same amount. I'm going to make an extra, I'll bring in an extra $20,000 by doing this. And I told her, tell them not to break what I've built for you guys. Because we had CRMs, and we had all this automation that was going through. I said, don't break that. They came in, oh, we're going to change this and change that. She lost hundreds of thousands of dollars and literally came back to me crying. Hopefully Zoe's not watching this. Zoe, I miss you. Love you, baby. It was like, and she literally called me crying. And I would message her and I'd say, hey, they just changed this. Tell them not to change that. Like, I was literally giving her free insights so that she could continue to work with them. And then finally she came back to me and just said, hey, like I was like, if you guys would have just kept what we built, you guys would have probably stayed at about 80 to 90% of what we did. But they broke it down. They wanted to do their own thing. And I'm like, you just crushed the machine. And so we had to rebuild the machine, which is, it's fine. I don't mind that. But it was, I'll tell you, nothing better than a client crying. Once again, so if you're listening, sorry, that crying and saying, hey, oh my God, and I'm like, I didn't tell her I told you so, because I didn't want to be that guy. But I'll tell you, I was like, oh, I told you. But I was like, oh, that's all right. Life lesson. We all learn.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So let's come back to quickly, because you do have these challenges, right? We do have these things with folks, and it's challenging. And but coming back on the home front, you go out there, man. It's dog eat dog out there. My biggest probably hang up with entrepreneurship is the media and how easy they make it sound. Right. I find that comical, that someone just does it, like there's not a bunch of Zoes out there who only when they put that number in front of it, only 43,000 a month, like that is a one-off, very unique situation. And, everyone's told like, oh yeah, build a website, you're going to make millions. And it's like, oh yeah, there'll be no competition out there. Right. So how do you traverse the ups and downs? How's that been on your family? Like what's the challenges been there?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, the challenges are there. I've been with my wife for 20 years, and she's been one of the reasons why we're still together is because she's been with me for the ups and the downs and the sideways and it's everything. And I didn't even tell you this, and this is probably a great time to bring this up. For one of my businesses, I got sued by the Attorney General for about $60 million. And my wife was the one that stood by my side during that. And so I had to fight the Attorney General of California. And we ended up, it's a long, long story. This is probably going to be a book one day, like all joking aside. And we got sued by the Attorney General at about $60 million. And I spent $2 million fighting it and ended up winning the case. Yeah. So, but you have to realize my wife was next to my side during that whole time, because it was a case that shouldn't have been brought against us, which, everybody has their opinion there. We were doing good business and good things were happening. But anyways, it doesn't mean that you don't have some things that happen. So, we talk about perseverance. If your bad day is that you just stubbed your toe or you can't find your socks, get sued for $60 million by an organization, by the state of California that has unlimited resources and attorneys on payroll. Then you let me know how bad your sock situation is, or your, hey, I didn't, get salsa with my quesadilla situation is. Like, I've been through some stuff, right? And I'm not bragging about that, because a lot of people don't even know about that, my history of that. But my point of telling you that is that my wife was there during those times, right? She was by my side. She's been there There's only been 1 month. I'm very proud of this. Only 1 month where I couldn't afford to pay. We were renting, I think, at the time, where we couldn't afford to pay our rent because I grind. I don't listen. If I need $2, I will, do bad things potentially to do it for $2, but not really. But my point is I'm never.
Sell
I don't.
A pair of shoes, bro. Like
something.
I got
something's gonna be sold.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like, and I think that's part of that mentality is something we kind of grew up with, right? Like,
yeah,
when you start making money when you're 12, 14 years old. You learn like people will pay, people will buy services, they'll buy items. Like, I'll find a way to create revenue, man. And the old adage, right? Revenue solves all. And I appreciate this whole lawsuit. Like, I mean, I come from a shipping environment where, when you go into a product base like oil, you're going to see BP and Citgo and Sunoco, and they have teams of lawyers. So they're like, hey, little company, we don't like the way you've handled this. So we're going to stick 4 of our lawyers on you, and you're going to be paying some outside consultant agent, a specialist, at $700 an hour. And like, how many hours can you stand that before your little business is under? And
they'll bleed you out.
They'll bleed you out. They will bleed you out, and they can, and that's the big B2B versus little B2B, right? So it is a challenge, man. That's a whole nother story for another day. I will be looking forward to that book. Shane Barker, thank you so much. Tracefuse.ai. Man, like get your Amazon reviews removed. Like, this is what they do. They are experts at it. You've got a online evaluator that you can give folks, right? Tell them about that.
Yeah. So we actually have, I talk about wanting to help Amazon sellers. I truly mean that. That really is the core of what we do is, I want to help sellers, and because that's how they feed their family. I take that very seriously. So what we've done, and this actually really cuts into my profitability of my company, but I did this because I care and I want to be able to give back. If you go to tracefuse.ai and you sell in the Amazon space, there's a thing called an ASIN, which is like a SKU, right? It's a unique identifier. And what you can do is you can go into, there's a thing called the Amazon Review Checker. It's free. It's the same tool that we use internally for all of our customers. Our customers are all white glove, which means we take care of everything for them. They don't do anything. But if you wanted to go in and put in your ASIN and see, once again, we'll create a report for you for free, and it tells you which of your reviews are in violation of Amazon's guidelines. You actually can use that, and you can go file cases on your own and look to get those reviews removed on your own. So the goal is, obviously, if you can get it removed on your own, guess what? You don't need to pay me anything. You don't need to come in and do any of that. You can do it on your own. If you can't remove the reviews, Amazon's not listening, we'll always be here as backup to be able to, make sure that good things are happening. If you have any problems, they can reach out at any time.
There you go. ShaneBarker.com. Check also that out. That's a big one for me. I am Trent Clark, host of Winners Find a Way. You can find my book, Leading Winning Teams. And if you book, I have the link below. If you book a 15-minute on growth that you want to know as an entrepreneur how to grow your business, I will send you the playbook, Flourish. I will send you the book. Get on a 15-minute call with me, and you can book, and I will give you the link for that. And you can email me at Trent@Leadershipity and say simply in the title, playbook, growth playbook, and I will and we can set it up. All right. For everybody else, until next time, every Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, the Winners Find a Way show is live on Facebook, our Leadershipity YouTube channel, and my LinkedIn. And then, of course, our podcast drops every Friday morning on all the major networks. And until next time, winners.